There's something that you're not doing that if you did do, your rhythm skills would be a lot better. It's the second most effective tip I have for you when it comes to counting rhythms, and of course, I'm talking about counting while you play. Here are 3 tips to make that easier. Tip number 1 when it comes to counting and playing is that if you've been playing for a longer period of time and you haven't been counting so far, you're probably not going to be able to keep up counting with the music you're currently working on, because counting in and of itself is a whole thing you need to focus on. So the tip is to find an easier scale or exercise to start with and then work your way up to the pieces that you're currently working on. Tip number 2 is that if you're struggling with counting and playing at the same time, you can always break things down into smaller pieces, such as right hand or left hand. So you might be able to get the right hand by itself, the left hand by itself, and then try them together. Break things down to make things easier for you. Tip number 3 is that you can count out loud or in your head, whichever works best for you, but I recommend you try both. Everybody's a little bit different, and I actually find students when they first start out, they need to count out loud because they don't have that internal rhythm really developed yet. It takes time to develop that. Now, I told you in the beginning that counting and playing at the same time is just one of many effective tips, and here comes another one. You want to learn as much as you can about the music theory behind how rhythm works. And specifically, I would know about how music is broken up into these squares called measures. And they are separated by things called bar lines. I would also know about time signatures and what those mean. And specifically, I would know about 3/4 time signature, 4/4, 2/4, 6/8, 9/8, and 12/8, but I would at least start with the ones that begin in 4. Note durations, which is how long do you play that note? How long do you hold that note? You know, it's things like quarter notes, eighth notes, whole notes. You need to understand how those work and how they work in each of the time signatures. And then the last thing I would learn when it comes to music theory in terms of rhythm is common rhythm patterns you're going to find throughout your music. Things like the dotted quarter eighth rhythm. How do you count 16th notes? How about triplets into duplets back into triplets? How do you do that? And I'm going to have a playlist for you at the end, so make sure to watch all those lessons, and it will catch you up on all the things you're going to need to know to get good at rhythm. But let's move on to number 3. Tip number 3, when it comes to improving your rhythm, this one's an even step beyond the last one we did, and it is writing in the rhythm for the pieces that you're currently learning. And no, you don't need to write in every measure, but you should write in the tricky ones. And let's do one together. Say I always mess up this measure right here, and it's really the rests and things like that that are getting me, and I'm not moving on to the next measure in time or in the appropriate time. So what do? Well, let's write in the rhythms to this measure. And again, this is where knowing your music theory behind rhythm comes in, because like I said, you're going to have to know how to count these rhythms. So these are all 16th notes, and if you don't know, you just count this as 1 E and a, 2 E and a, and again, I have a link for you at the very end to catch you up on this stuff. And then here's beat 3, and here's the thing, is even though you have eighth notes here, you want to continue what's called subdividing. So even though I have a rest here, I'm still saying 4 E and a, right? And here's how the right hand is going to be counted. So it's going to be counted 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, 1. And then that would begin the next measure. So because I've written that out, I know exactly where, basically exactly how long to hold these rests for and when I'm going to be playing the left hand as well. So I know that that's going to hit on beat 1 along with the right hand. And that would be the next measure. I could go into a lot more detail about writing and rhythms, and if that's something you want me to make a whole lesson on, I can do that. So let me know in the comments if you need help writing in the rhythms of your pieces, and we can do many examples together. But that wasn't the main purpose of this lesson, it was just to tell you about it. Speaking of which, number 4, which is anticipating the beat, or as I call them, attack points. Let me show you all about it. Okay, say I have this rhythm. Looks fun, right? And it looks kind of confusing. It's like, where do I hit that note? What am I doing here? How do I make sure that I play this rhythm right? Well, let me tell you right now about the concept of attack points. And what an attack point is it's the point in which you're going to attack or move to the next note. And this tip works really well in conjunction with the previous tip I told you about writing in the rhythms. And to do that, you need to know all that music theory and stuff, so you can see how this builds on each other. But let me show you exactly how we're going to do this. So here we have a measure of 4/4, and I'm just going to count out or write out the rhythm of this measure to save us a little time. Okay, because we're dealing with eighth notes, I don't see any 16th notes. We're going to be breaking down the beats into 1 and 2 and 3 and. That's just what we do whenever we have eighth notes. Here I've written out the measure of 4/4 here for us in terms of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And what that is that each number and each syllable rather, takes up half of a beat. So we have our eighth rest right here, which takes up half a beat 1, and thus the second rest hits on the and of 1. Beat 2, we still have this rest going on, and then our plan of attack, our attack point, is actually on the and of 2, and I'll show you how to use that in a second. We have another note on 3, and then that's holding over for 3 and 4, and then and. Again, if you want me to make a lesson on how to write in all these rhythms and stuff, I can certainly do that. Let me know. But here's the whole point of attack point. I wrote out my rhythms, and I said that the point of attack is on the and of beat 2. And then I have another point of attack on beat 3, and then our last point of attack, where we're moving, is going to be on the and. So when I'm counting this out, I'm really thinking, remember, the and of 2, 3, and 4. So I'm going to count out 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then when I get to the and of 2, 1 and 2 and 3, that was our rhythm that we had. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and in my head, I really plan where those attack points are in terms of the 1 and 2 ands, and I'm able to move onto the next note with a lot more accuracy. Try this tip out on your own, really plan for those attack points, and you will be astonished at what a difference it can make with your rhythm accuracy. Number 5, when it comes to improving your rhythm, is that you want to start sight reading rhythms regularly. And now, what is sight reading? Well, sight reading is being able to look at a piece of music or a measure or a passage of music for the very first time and being able to play it beginning to end with relatively few mistakes. And with rhythm, we're just focusing on counting the rhythm. How you should get started sight reading rhythms is find a passage of music that you've never played before. It can be in a lesson book that you're working on, maybe in a lesson book you haven't gotten to yet, a church hymnal, something like that. And what you want to do is you want to see if you can clap the rhythms of the piece, and then you can go find a recording of the piece to make sure that you have the right rhythms. That's probably the easiest way to practice counting rhythm. That was the easiest way, but there's also another great way to practice sight reading rhythms, and that is by going to Teoria.com and going to their rhythm reading exercise. Teoria.com, Teoria, and you want to click on exercises. And then over on the right where it says music theory, you want to click on reading and then rhythmic reading. Only select the time signatures that you are already familiar with. So we'll select those, and only select the note values that you're familiar with. So if you're familiar with quarter notes and eighth notes, only do those. If you know 16th notes, do those. If you're familiar with rests, syncopation, or triplets, you can select those. But again, it's important that you don't select anything you don't know yet. And then hit OK. Okay, so once you get into an exercise, it will start counting out the beat for you with the metronome. You can play along with your own keyboard if you want, or you can actually use your typing keyboard, and it will provide you feedback on your playing if you do that. I can never get that to work right, so what I do is I just sight read the rhythm, and I play it on the piano. And the great thing about it is it's going to give you another exercise. So it's giving you sight reading, right? It's giving you new stuff each time that you can read through. And so if you don't have extra music lying around that you haven't played before, you can certainly use Theoria.com. The last 2 tips I have for you on counting rhythms are by far the most effective, but before we get to those, I just want to say thank you so much to all those that have supported the channel throughout the years, whether it's the regular viewers, the channel members, the mods, the people that sign up for courses over on my website, pianolessonsontheweb.com. Without your support, I wouldn't have been able to reach as many people and taught as many people as I had. So I just want to take a moment to say thank you so much. The 6th way to improve your rhythm fast is to practice rhythm dictation. And a lot of students don't even know what this is, so let me fill you in. All rhythmic dictation is being able to hear a rhythm pattern and then reproduce it on the music sheet. For example, if I have this rhythm, 1, 2, 3, 4, it would look like this. 4 quarter notes. And being able to do rhythmic dictation, it's going to vastly improve your internal rhythm skills, because then you'll be able to hear a rhythm and then reproduce it. But a lot of times it's not just 4 quarter notes, it's a little bit more complicated than that. Let's try an example and see if you can follow along. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to count out a measure of 4/4. I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'll begin playing the rhythm, and we'll see if you can figure out what I am playing. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So what do you think? 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you had this rhythm, you have it correct. So as you could hear, I was playing some quick notes, 1 and 2 and 3, 4. So if you had 4 eighth notes and then the last 2 beats quarter notes, you have it correct. Obviously, you want to even get better at that since there are more complicated rhythms than that, and you even want to get to the point where you can hear a piece of sheet music with pitches being played and being able to pick out the rhythm from that. But let me show you how you should be practicing rhythmic dictation as a beginner, because you might not have me around. In fact, you definitely won't to play these rhythms for you. So let me show you how it's done. Remember that website I told you about a few minutes ago, Theoria.com? We'll go back to it, and we are actually going to select the rhythmic dictation exercise. Again, you only want to select the things that you know. So if you only know these time signatures, select those. And let's say we're going to select quarter notes and eighth notes and no rests. And then let's see what happens here. When I hit this little speaker button here, it's going to play the example for us. It's going to count out one measure of 4/4, and then it's going to play the example. So let's see if we can get it. Okay, so I definitely heard it start out bum, 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 so definitely 3 quarter notes. Let's add in 3 of these, and let's give it another listen to see what the rest was. So I heard bum, 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 bum. And then I think we had a quarter after, but let's listen again. You're going to have to listen to it probably 5 times or so to get it. Or if you're really good, maybe once. But let's hear it. Oh, I think we're almost there. I think we just have 2 more eighth notes to go. Bump, bump. So let's make sure that we have the correct number of beats here. So we have 3 quarter notes, that's 3 beats, sorry, and then that last 2 eighths, another beat, so we have 4 beats there, 1 beat, 2 beat, 3 beats, and 4 beats. I think we're good. We're going to check our answer. Boom, we got it correct. Now you notice that they did beam together the eighth notes, but it's just a little bit of a logistical difference, but it is the same answer. We did it. So that's what you want to do. You want to go to Theoria.com and select that rhythmic dictation and do, I don't know, like 2 or 3 a day. I think would really help you out. It's something that a lot of students, I said, are not practicing that will really, really help your rhythm skills. Before we get on to the final tip and then the bonus tip that's so worth it, I just want to ask one question for the comments. What are your rhythm struggles? Do you struggle keeping in time? Do you struggle playing with the metronome? What about different time signatures or rhythm patterns? I want to know your struggles because it's really going to help me come up with better lesson ideas and come out with better lessons in the future. So now on for our final 2 tips. The last and very, very important way to improve your rhythm, except for the bonus tip at the end, is the metronome. And you've probably heard about this thing before. It's a device that provides a series of clicks and beeps, and that gives you your beat. So you really can't get off beat. I mean, you can get out of sync with the metronome, I guess. But the tendency when we're playing, though, especially if we're playing a piece that we already know, is to speed up or slow down as we're playing it, and the metronome will make sure you're not doing that. It's also really good for getting a piece up to speed, because you can try it at a certain tempo, get it down at that tempo, and then once you feel comfortable with it, you knock it up a BPM or 2, and then it makes it slightly faster. Playing with the metronome can be really tricky at first, so let me give you 3 tips to get you started. Tip number 1, try the metronome with easy pieces first, because it's going to be a lot to handle when you're first learning to play with the metronome, because you're going to have to sync up your playing with this. So you have to listen to your playing and the metronome at the same time. So make sure the pieces you're first trying are super easy. Here comes tip number 2 for the metronome. Once you are able to play through that easy piece, you just want to bump up the speed ever so slightly. Try it again at that speed. If you can't do it, just keep trying it, or maybe even bump the speed back. But once you can do it at that speed, try it again, but only bump it up 1 little click. Try it again. Once you can do that, bump it up 1 little click. And this is the way to get your pieces up to speed without having to sacrifice your finger technique or anything, because you're gradually getting there. You're not just going from 1 to 100 right away, or in this case 1 to 208. Last metronome tip is that you want to make the metronome practice a part of your regular practice routine. So each time you practice, I would make sure that you're playing with the metronome at least once. I would play through a piece without it first, and then play through it with it, see if you can identify any problem areas, see if you can get it up maybe a little bit faster. So make sure that this thing is a part of your regular practice. So here's the bonus tip. I told you it'd be worth it, and I'm going to deliver. So we covered a lot of ways to improve your rhythm in this lesson, and if you remember, I went over like some of the rhythm theory that you should know, the time signatures, the different rhythm patterns, all that. And you need to know this stuff like the back of your hand to be successful. And I'm going to put a playlist right here to catch you up on all the rhythm lessons. You want to watch all of them. I'm serious. You don't want any gaps in your rhythm knowledge, and watching these is the way to do it. Your piano teacher, Tim here. Thank you so much for coming by today. And I'll see you, yes you, in the next lesson. Have a great day.
I got rhythm, I got music. Who could ask for